Welcome to Everything Life and Financial Freedom. We are your hosts, Linda and Jim McKissack. If you know our story, you know that we went from over $600,000 in debt to having financial freedom. We share some of the insights and practical tips that we've learned over the last 30 years for achieving financial freedom, building wealth, and building an extraordinary life. Let's get started with today's episode. Hey, Jim, so we're back again. I can't remember what episode we're on, but 4 maybe? I don't know.
It's 4.
Take a guess. Yeah, 4. And you and I are going to talk about today really what's the importance of couples working together to get financial freedom. Because I think you and I both learned that when we had a group of painters in years ago into our strategy room, that they loved everything we were saying. And then we got down to the end and several of them said, well, what if my spouse doesn't want to do this, right?
Yeah. You know, what we really found is that most couples, there's usually one of them that's kind of risk adverse. And so you really got to spell out, you know, what are the advantages of doing it? Like I love one of the things that you always say, Linda, you know, what's worse, having to go clean a dirty house or a dirty toilet? Or is it being broke when you're older and you don't have any money coming in?
Yeah. And I think that's what people don't think about long enough as a couple or significant others, whatever your partner or whatever. You know, you don't sit down and say, what do we want our life to look like in 15 years? What do we want our life to look in 20 years? We kind of worry about this year.
Right.
And I think if you do this as a couple, one, it helps both of you think into the future about what your needs are going to be and what your financial needs will be, what you want your life to look like. And then I think it gives the impetus for change for people to designate time and money to build this freedom.
Yeah. I think it kind of doubles your efforts, you know, so to speak. And you know, once you get on the journey of investing and stuff, it makes your network wider when both of you are talking about it and both of you have interest in it and both of you are learning at it at the same time. You know, being in the real estate business for you and I, that was a perfect avenue for us to work together in. And you had a different set of skills than I had, and I have a different set of skills than you have, but our company needed both of those skills. And so combining those things together, we were able to really double our income.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it going ahead and deciding up front that we both wanted that allowed us both to be looking for deals. And I think you found some deals that I didn't find. I found some deals you didn't find. And again, both of us work within our strengths to add to that bucket that was going to create freedom for both of us later on.
And the bucket that, you know, of our real estate sales, actually, of creating that cash flow, that we were able to set up a system to go save money to be able to invest. That was a whole, you know, that was a big part of what we did as realtors.
Yeah.
You know, and
And, you know, I think a lot of people listening may say, well, do I need to get my license? I know I've been asked that a lot. And by the way, for those of you that are interested in getting your license, we do actually have in some of our states available a way to get a no cost to you license that's already being paid for by someone else. So you could reach out to us at info@Linda McKissack and you could find out more about that if that's what you think you do. But I don't think they need a license to be investors. Do you?
No,
not at all.
No.
So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of couples deciding this together. I mean, I think probably when I look at other couples and I think about our own frustrations were when you and I didn't get clear about what my strengths were and what your strengths were. I think for both of us, I like to multiply and you're a great simplifier. And so I can make a lot of messes and you have this logical brain that stops and says, okay, and you ask the what I like to call the elephant in the room questions that I don't even think about. I just want to get a deal done, right? So I think that works together. And I think most of our frustrations were when we didn't know what each of our lanes were in investing.
Well, I remember whenever I first joined your team, you kind of fired me the first week because you wanted me to do all the stuff you didn't like to do, and I didn't like the same things you didn't like.
Yeah.
And so that was the first indicator that you know, we needed to find each other's lanes.
Yeah, and I think the moral to that is don't try to be each other's boss.
Right.
Be a team, be a partner on it. Get excited about what kind of freedoms this is going to give you later in life, because this is a later in life game when you're talking about creating financial freedom. Financial freedom isn't a get rich quick, right?
No, it's a get rich slow
Yeah.
system.
Yeah. And sometimes I think that's what makes it hard for people. So that's why I say you and I used to go to, and we may have said this before on one of our podcasts, but you and I, when we couldn't even afford it, we'd go to the Four Seasons and sit in their lobby and dream about what we wanted our life to look like someday.
Well, we would write out plans and
Yeah.
everything, and what it would look like. And then we'd try 5-year and 10-year and 20-year out plans, and try to build adventures and stuff. And that created the excitement and the enthusiasm of why you do it. And I think those are the things that kind of get you over the hump of the instant gratification. Because it was easy for us to go out and make a commission check. But if we went and blew all the money, we didn't have anything left to show for that commission check.
Yeah. And, for me, I think everybody's motivated in different ways. And I think for me, Jim, I would get a dream board and I would put the picture of a dream beach house on it. And I'd put a picture of a car that would motivate me to know that these were the kind of lifestyles I was working towards. And we were driving a beat up Ford Pinto at the time. So we looked pretty far away from a Mercedes and a beach house.
Yeah. And I think you had a blue Mercedes picture on there within 3 years you were driving that car.
Yeah.
And, every time you put a picture up, I always start worrying. I know we're fixing to get something. I think the last deal was a jet.
Yeah.
And somehow we ended up with a jet.
Yeah. Don't you love my dream board now?
Yeah, I like your dream board now. That's cool.
So I think that would be another way I would say to do it as a couple. I love Dave Ramsey's book, Financial Peace, because it gives people such hope to get out of debt. And I think you could emulate those same things that he tells you to do in that book by making a dream board and visiting, what is that going to look like someday when we have that kind of ample money coming in because we created financial freedom? What is our time going to look like? What am I going to spend my time doing when I don't really have to necessarily work, or I can work because I want to, not because I have to? I think those things keep you invigorated and keep you willing to do the things you have, the activities today that you're going to need for future financial freedom.
I went out to Dave Ramsey's place and got certified on the financial peace side and on the one-on-one coaching side on there. And that was really an interesting week. And then I read the book, Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. And that book was powerful. It had so many good things. And his philosophy really goes out to the masses of the people. It's helped a lot of people.
And I think a lot of our listeners, Jimmy, may be in those kind of situations. And so we say, if you're in financial debt, go there first. The only fork in the road where we differ from Dave is we believe in using other people's money, leverage of bank money and things like that, what we call good debt.
Yeah. And he doesn't have a clarity between good debt and bad debt. All debt's bad to him.
Yeah.
But, using smart mortgage financing debt or somebody else is actually paying off your mortgage for you as you continue to do what you do to make a living. I mean, that's how wealthy get wealthier.
Yeah. And I think, Jim, for average people like you and I think that's who our listener is going to be. They're going to be somebody who's not going to be the Bill Gates. They're not going to be Steve Jobs. They're not necessarily, they have a way that they make a living, whatever that is, whether it's 100% commission, whether it's wages, and they want more. They want a life that's free. They want their time. They want their money. They want all of those things that you would normally think you'd have to be a Steve Jobs or someone like that or Bill Gates to get that. And we're just proven facts that you can be average people who want above average lives, and you can figure that out with financial freedom.
Well, usually the first thing whenever I hear somebody talking, they say, their goal is to be a millionaire. Well, do you realize that if you went and bought about 3 rental properties today and got those paid off in 15, 20, 30 years, you realize you would have $1 million coming in, in net worth by the time they're paid for?
Yeah. And if these prices keep going up, it's going to be less and less houses. You need to do that. So, So back to why you would want to do this with a significant other, or a partner or a spouse, is because I think 2 people working on something is way more powerful if you can get in the same direction and you can get the same goals and you can understand what the benefits are going to be later, and then figure out what each other's unique gifts are. And, and don't be afraid if neither one of us wanted to manage the properties. That's just not something either one of us wanted to do. So we've really not done that very much. We've found other people to manage them, or now we have a full-time person that manages all of our single family homes, and we have a full-time person that manages our vacation rentals. So don't be afraid if there's pieces that neither one of you like, that is important to building financial freedom.
We really built a hybrid system for management.
Yeah.
We found someone that could do the management side that was really good at the front end side, knew the laws really well, handled the tenant, any kind of tenant complaints or anything's coming in, handles all the leases on the front end, handles all the make readies when they're turned over and stuff. And then we have a really good back end accounting side, through our corporate accounting people, and they do all the back end P&Ls and everything every month and stuff. And so it's worked out great for us having a hybrid system, but we had to figure that out, and when you accumulate as many properties as we had, there was a cost factor in there that made it worthwhile to do it ourselves versus do it to a management company.
Yeah, and how you start out might not be how you end up, and we'll get into more in future episodes. We'll get into more detail of how we actually run our systems. So back to another pro for doing this as a couple is that your kids learn. I mean, we have two of our kids that have multiple single family homes, and one's in their, one just turned 30 and the other is middle 30s. So I think if you bring your family up to understand the importance of financial freedom, it's something that gets talked about in your family, and they understand the importance of it. And so I think it's easier transition for them as they get to be adults.
I tell you what, whenever I was going to the foreclosure sale, buying houses like crazy, down there, having my son along, to come in there and go out with me and look at the properties and learn the process with me, was one of the most rewarding things that I've been through. My daughter, she helped out too. She would go out and she would help with the improvement of the properties whenever we'd buy them and stuff. She had great ideas and stuff too. Yeah. So it was really neat getting the kids involved. Yeah. And both of them have, both of them are building wealth right now. They're rental properties.
And I remember, Jim, when our kids were young, we got the game Cash Flow Quadrant for kids. And we played that game because Cash Flow Quadrant was really the book that really transitioned us from being $600,000 in debt to having a game plan of how to get out of that debt and then move into financial freedom. And I remember one time we were driving down the road, and Press was very young at that age. He was probably 8 or 9. And we'd played the game many, many times. And he said he wanted to say, "Hey, Mom, pull over. There's a playhouse over there I want." And it's one of those playhouse swing set on the side of the road. And I said, "Okay, Press, we can pull over there, but let me ask you a question. Is that an asset or a liability?" And he said, "Oh man, that's a liability." He couldn't say liability, but he said, "Man, that's a liability." And I said, "Why is that a liability?" And he said, "Because it won't make me any money."
Yeah. And so training your kids through this process is pretty cool too.
Hello. Thank you for listening to the Everything Life and Financial Freedom podcast. For transcripts, resources, and more, visit the episode page on the podcast website at everythinglifeandfinancialfreedom.com. You can also download our Freedom Number worksheet. This worksheet will help you determine the amount of passive income you need to generate each year to sustain the lifestyle you have or the lifestyle you want when you no longer wish to work or simply want the freedom of your time and your money. Can you think of any cons of not doing this together with your spouse? I can't think of any. If you get on the same page, they're going to have bumps. It's not going to be easy. You're going to want to kill each other at moments.
Well, one of the leading causes of divorce is it's over finances.
So true.
And so whenever a husband and wife are working together and is transparent, and both of them see the advantages of doing this and the hard work that it takes to go do things together and stuff, I think that enriches the marriage also. Yeah, and I think people give up when there's no hope. And when you're working on this kind of stuff on a regular basis, there's always hope. And there's always hope there's another deal out there. And there's always hope of when these houses get paid off and when somebody else pays them off for us, or, depending on what, we're talking mostly about investing in real estate, but eventually we'll talk about businesses that create wealth and other things that create wealth. So I think if you can make it through the beginning stages of, the fear, because I think under anger is always fear. And so when you're angry with someone, there's fear underneath. I know when I first started trying to sell real estate because we were so far in debt, I was angry a lot because I was fearful. I didn't know what I could do or if I could do it, or
we were going to be okay and all those things. So I think if we can make it through all those rough spots, I don't think you or I, either one, would want to do anything today in any business venture that we didn't have each other working on it. Would you?
No, it's really been a fun journey, once we really got into it and made it happen. But
Yeah.
that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So I'll just go back and we'll kind of recap just a little bit. This is kind of about why it's important to have your significant other and spouse on or partner on the same page. And I think one, because if you don't, you're constantly fighting and friction
Yin and the
against.
yang deal.
Yeah, the yin and the yang of I want to buy this house, you don't want to buy it. I want to take this risk, you don't want to take that risk. You want to take that risk, I don't want to take that risk. So if we can get on the same page, I think when you follow that plan, then that plan takes away a lot of the friction that they're decisions that have actually already been made for you.
And the quickest way to get rid of the friction is for both of you to be knowledgeable about the subject. And so each one of you has to be willing to go learn about the process. It can't be that one partner is going to learn it all and the other one's going to sit down there and say, yeah, it's a good idea, maybe, but so the more that knowledge that you have, knowledge is power.
Yes, so true.
And so the more knowledge that you get, the less the risk also involved in doing this.
Yeah. And I think, I was talking to someone today on the phone. I was kind of coaching them a little bit, and they had their guts kind of kicked in. And she was a little hesitant to take any more risks, to be honest with you. And I just tried to point out to her that, once you've been kicked in the gut or you've had terrible things like debt and, bankruptcy and all those things, you're actually better prepared moving forward, because there's so many lessons you can get out of what you went through. And I don't think any way in life does your life get big or free without making commitments that are going to be scary, and that you don't really have all the credentials.
And the truth is, we all get kicked in the gut, and we've all been knocked down to the ground or below the ground.
We were really far down below the ground, Jimmy, like way under.
Yeah, but it's not really. I mean, if you're not learning from those experiences and you don't have those experiences, it's not how. Whether you get kicked down to the ground or not, it's how fast you get back up. Yeah.
And what did you learn? What did you learn from that? I think you just get extra lessons, extra fast and extra hard that other people may take a longer period of time to get. Yeah.
And also creates the point that you don't want to ever have that feeling again.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be back 600,000.
Creates a big have to.
Yeah. All right. So for those of you out there, we encourage you to get your spouse on the same page, your significant other, your partner, be on the same page. Decide what is this financial freedom mean to you. And I think it's, humans, Jimmy, act on emotion and justify with logic. That's why I think it's important to have pictures of things you want, to talk about the lifestyle you're going to be able to have.
Also building the dream boards.
Yeah.
And dream boards are so
and look
cool.
around at people that haven't done this. This is a big motivator for me. I think I've just figured out I'm kind of a little motivated by fear, but looking around at people, because you and I both had to bury our parents and take care of our parents financially at some point. And I think looking at that, you can tell you real quick, because we said in our other episode, what happens by default over the 40 people that they followed the 100 people they followed for 40 years. And so, maybe take some looks at that and say, do I want this life or do I want this life? And if you want the lifestyle that you're probably going to want, it's going to take some activities that you're doing today to prepare you to have those financial freedoms in the future.
It all starts with a plan.
Yeah. What's that freedom number?
Yeah. What's that freedom
number? You and I talk about our freedom number all the time. And so I love it. And so if you would have not hit subscribe, please hit subscribe below. And if you know of anyone that you think would benefit from these conversations, be sure and pass our podcast along. And the greatest compliment you can give Jim and I is a 5-star review, so that other people are able to find this podcast called Everything Life and Financial Freedom. And we'd love to hear from you. If you reach out to us at info@lindamckisack.com. I'd love to hear from you what topics and what ideas and what limiting beliefs or ideas that are holding you back from creating financial freedom. And Jim, I guess I'll see you in a little bit, but I also will see you on the next episode.
Sounds great.
All right. See ya. Thanks for listening today. If you haven't already, please subscribe and share this podcast with others. The greatest compliment you can give us is to leave a 5-star review, and please feel free to reach out to us at info@lindamckissick.com. We would love to hear from you about any ideas, topics, or guests to include on our podcast. So see you next time.